What is up, guys? It is the Sports Nerd Bradley Walker, and welcome to the Walker Report. Happy Thursday, guys. Hope everyone out there is having a good start for middle of January. Hopefully, everyone's had a good start to their 2024. We are the Walker Report is part of NGSC Sports, guys. Remember the website. It's ngscsports.com for all your current sports content. So part of Snowman Multimedia Sports, the Game Winner Sports Network, Mancini Media, and Sports Alliance of America Incorporated. We have two sponsors, guys. The first one is Creating Zen Spaces, the local choice in St. Petersburg, Florida for house cleaning, organization, decluttering, and pet sitting. It's about finding the peace within you, adding comfort to your life. Guys, remember, Zen Spaces begins with you. Be kind to yourself and one another. We are also sponsored by fun-wags.com. More from a near tragedy when the FunWags mascot had a bad reaction from a store brand treat. They were fueled to succeed with ingredients you can pronounce and only 3 to 5. The Fun-Wags mascots invite you to try fun-wags.com because our fur babies deserve the best. Head over to fun-wags.com to get your treats. Again, guys, welcome in. Happy Thursday. Guys, we are just a couple weeks away from Super Bowl Sunday. The NFL season is winding down. Let me bring on two of my three awesome co-hosts. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, Bradley.
Good evening.
How's it going, guys?
Right? We got about...
I have been having a fantastic...
Yeah, sorry, guys, about last week. I was like, I could barely stay awake when it came to our show, and I wasn't about to go on the air and be passing out, and I don't want to do that. So
almost done that too.
I don't think that would be very professional of me to, while you guys are talking, all of a sudden I'm like sleeping over here in the corner. But everybody doing good. I mean, Gerald told me he might come on the last hour. If not, he would see us next week. So I told him whenever you can come on is fine. You don't have to be on here. It's not a big deal, So, but with that in mind, a lot going on, guys. Where would you guys like to start? You want to talk about the NFL? You want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll say one thing though. The wild card wasn't so wild because of the 6 games that were in last week, 5 of them were, let's say, a dud, one-sided, pathetic, boring, miserable as hell. I mean, does that sound enough for you?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think the Rams
really the only
the end.
That I was just about to say that, Lou. That was the only game that actually was worth watching and paying attention to because the other ones were all blowouts.
Pile of puke.
Or just the low-scoring blowout with Kansas City, Miami, 26-7. See when I made my picks at work last week because we have an office pool at one of the places I work at, and so I thought the game was played in Miami because according to CBS, Miami was the 3 seed. So I just penciled Miami in. I moved Miami along. I thought, okay. And then the next day I found out that game was in Kansas City. I was like, oh, balls. It's not going to be close. And I think.
Yeah.
But I think that's you look at the teams that moved on. Detroit plays in the Dome, but it was at home, and yet because I guess what I'm thinking and trying to say is that the weather really doesn't matter because Detroit and Dallas both play in a dome, and Dallas got shellacked, and Detroit had to cling on there at the end. So I mean, for all the people complaining about the weather, I think that's just part of the game.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo moves the game to Monday afternoon because of 400 inches of snow, and they still win. It's at least 400. I was being conservative. But
even the Eagles at home, oof, that was embarrassing.
I thought they was in Tampa. That was in Tampa.
Still, well, Eagles deserve to be at home because they were supposed to be the far better team, but yeah, I know because they didn't win the division. I know, but still,
they didn't. I don't really think Tampa. I mean, I think Tampa. I think Tampa and their fan base. And Bradley, I'll let you have the word on that. But I think Tampa and their fan base were out to prove that they were that Philly wasn't the better team, and I think they did. They proved that Monday night.
And normally when we have a playoff game, and it's a team that travels well, and the Eagles travel well. The Eagles do travel well. There was a lot of red. I mean, I watched the game on Monday night. I saw a lot more red than I saw green, and that's kind of a shocking thing because a lot of times Bucs fans will sell their tickets because they don't want to go. And but I think it comes down to culture. I think the culture in Raymond James Stadium, I think, is different because you had USF go 7-6 this year. They got 6 wins, which I think the expert writers had them winning 3 or 4 games this year, and they got to a bowl game and won. They got from what I've been watching, they have a lot of good transfer kids from the portal, which will make the program hopefully better moving forward. And guys, and bear with me when I say this, there was a local writer here in Tampa, and they need to pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah. USF could be one of the 12 playoff teams next year. Let's pump the brakes a little bit, guys.
What?
Let's pump the brakes a little bit on that.
But
let's have
a
season first before we can start talking about.
Well, this is the crazy thing, and that from what I understand about the playoffs, is that there are 6 automatic bids. So you got the Power 4, right? Because the Pac-12 no longer exists. So you've got the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and the ACC. Then you have 2 other conference champions that are automatic qualifiers. So it's going to be the best 2, as it sits right now, it's going to be the best 2 non-Power 4, for want of a better term, the non-Power 4 teams. And so if USF can go 10-2 next year and win the AAC, they could be arguably one of the 6 best teams in the country just by virtue of everybody else beating up on everybody else. And have that automatic qualifier and be the 6th seed and catch a home playoff game next year. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I understand your idea of, let's pump the brakes on that because we only had a winning season this year by virtue of making a bowl game. We went 7-6, with some disappointing losses in there. I understand that, but from the ever optimistic point of view of, hey, we've got a shot, why not us? I can see where you can make an argument for a 10-2, 9-3 ACC champion, or even 11-1. I haven't looked at their schedule for 2024 recently, but I don't see why they can't go up.
The only major game that I see, Bud, that is outside of them not really having. really having a chance to win is we're at home against Miami, the Hurricanes. Other than that, we played Tulane. They had a down. They were what? They were in the AAC championship game this year. Then they fell apart at the end of the season. Other than that, we don't have any big like out of conference games. Like we have Alabama on the road, so that's the big out of conference game on the road. It's Alabama and Miami. So those are the two games. And I'm not going to say that just because Nick Saban has retired that we have a shot at beating them. Yeah. I think we have a better shot at beating them than we did with him there. And I already told Ralph, I said, hey, when credentials come available next season or later this year, I told him, I said, hey, apply for us because I would love to go to Tuscaloosa and be at Alabama and go see the game in person, especially if we have an outside chance of winning the game, where I think with Saban there, it would have been not so favorable for us to win. And again, I'm not saying we're going to win either. We could go up there and get blown out.
Right.
Yeah.
Washington's coach,
but
the guy that coached Washington, he's now at Alabama. So we'll see what players stay and what players go,
Yes.
And what kind of players he can get to come there. I think that's going to be, what's going to happen in the transfer portal. Like you were saying, y'all down there in South Florida, to me, as a non-top, if you're not, I think that the one thing that's always confused me about USF is why they struggle to get 2 and 3 stars from around the country. That's always boggled my mind because I look at Florida. Yeah, you guys recruit really well in Florida. You had this was 2 or 3 years ago now, in 2019, I think it was actually when we first started the show, and I was learning more about the other teams so I could be more professional. But one thing that shocked me was how many players on your roster were from Florida, and I'm looking around. And I'm looking at the guys that are from Upper Pittsnuckle State. These guys that are 2 and 3 stars that went to Central, went to Eastern, Western Kentucky. And these kids that you would think the glitz and glam of South Florida would appeal to, and the opportunity to go and because and I'm not disparaging Eastern Michigan's academic prowess. Obviously any school that you get a degree from is going to provide you with a world-class education. Outside of the University of Phoenix online, any of these major colleges that can afford a football team are going to provide.
I'm a University graduate. Thank you very much.
I'm serious. And look at where it's. I can't. But
take that as a. I have a degree. I don't care. It's fine. I don't take any. I don't take it as an insult or anything. It's cool. I'm cool.
No. I wasn't ripping on the University of Phoenix. You can get a fine education from that, but I look at all the. But I think about Eastern and Western and Central and Tennessee State. Chattanooga, right? And they get, those are minor schools. And obviously, you can go to Chattanooga, you can still get a decent education. But what kills me is that South Florida can't attract a 4-star from Maine or from Montana, and that's what boggles my mind, is that Florida South struggles to recruit high-flying 2 and 3 and 4-star recruits. Obviously, if you have a 4-star with any chance of going to Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, USC, UCLA, okay, you're out on them, right? You're not going to take a wasted trip up to Central New York to go talk to a kid that's getting offers from Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, So that's fine, right? But what boggles my mind is a guy like Colston Loveland, who tied in at Michigan last year. He had one offer, and that was from Michigan because nobody recruited him. The only ones that recruited him were Ron Bellamy, the wide receivers coach at Michigan. He went out there to check him out, and they brought him in as a tight end, and Jim Harbaugh. And so what kills me is that like the USFs of the world should be dominating cold weather climates with 2 and 3 star recruits. You should be able to, like if it was me, 15 years ago when I was, and I been a 2-star athlete or a 3-star athlete, and Central Michigan came to call and South Florida came to call, I'm going to Miami or Tampa Bay. I'm sorry.
Well, I think, Bud, with that is it comes down to head coaches, and I think we finally found the right coach outside of Jim Leavitt. We had a bunch of mistakes in between. Where I think now it just took that long because we went from Jim Leavitt to Skip Holtz, which his dad was a great head coach at Notre Dame. We all know Lou was a great head coach at Notre Dame, and but Skip, he fell way too far from the tree. He's not anything like his dad. And then we had I forget who we had after him. We had Willie Taggart for a while, and then Charlie Strong had one good season his first year with Quentin Flowers, and then after that, I remember the first year that I had credentials, USF was 2018, and we started off the season 7-0. And then the day that I went and watched the Florida-Georgia game with my friend, USF was playing Houston, and the wheels completely fell off. Like, that game was like Houston found out how to beat us and, like, had the blueprint and how to beat USF. And from that point on, we lost the last 6 games, including a bowl game at home, which wasn't a home game. It was the Gasparilla Bowl, which is held every year at Raymond James Stadium. And actually, Gasparilla, if you don't know what Gasparilla is, it's a parade that the Pirates invade Tampa and take the city over. They do it every year. It's for a bunch of people who get drunk and they show their boobs and beads and stuff like Mardi Gras. It's like Florida's Mardi Gras.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I actually think I prefer some sarsaparilla, though. But
I on that blue. But we lost that game. Marshall came down here and annihilated us at home. We had a lot of fans there because, again, it's the home stadium. So you show up, but we got annihilated. I mean, we got annihilated by Marshall. And then that was it. Charlie Strong then we got Jeff Scott. The pandemic hit in 2020. We won 4 games the 3 years that Jeff Scott was here. And then Alex Golesh comes in year 1 and we win 6. So I'm hoping now that we're winning more games that we will attract or go up and recruit those 4-star kids from Maine and the ones that aren't getting major looks or have been passed over by the Alabamas, the Texases, those schools in the country that already have, 2 or 3 guys at that position that don't need another athlete unless he wants to change positions, which some kids will do that, but other kids don't want to do it. Like some kids, no, I'm a running back, I'm going to stick. I don't want to be a wide receiver, So some kids are stuck in the mud when they're, so I'm hoping now that Alex Golesh is at the helm that we can recruit better. Like I said, the transfer portal, I think, speaking of that, but I think we have the number 1 recruiting class in the AAC after signing day. USF had the number 1 signing class. Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, brother, I don't even know the last time that I even heard USF even coming within the top 5 in recruiting in the AAC. Because you had Cincinnati, you had UCF, so you had teams where they were, flocking to. So now that those teams are in the Big 12, And there's obviously going to be some shifting, we know, this year coming up with teams moving out of the Pac-12, which will be totally gone. Some of them are going to the Big Ten and stuff like that. So there are different. So you can look at the schedule. I think the Bulls could win 8 or 9 games this year. And again, that's if we don't get any injuries or anything like that, we could probably win 8 or 9 out of 12 this year. So we could be hosting the championship game, the conference championship game at Raymond James. And as a writer, that would be freaking awesome to cover an American game. But I am looking to go to Tuscaloosa and hopefully cover the game in Alabama. And it would be nice to go see them win. That would be even better. That'd be nice to see them go and beat them. And like I said, I keep seeing a lot of players transferring out of Alabama, and that's what happens when you lose a coach like Nick Saban. Kids that want to play for him don't want to play for somebody else, and they leave. And I have a funny feeling if Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan, that's going to happen too. There's going to be some players that are going to transfer out, but they may not But who is your OC, the one that filled in for Harbaugh the last couple games? Would he be the next in line to be the head coach? I'm assuming, right?
I don't want anyone else. I mean, he goes into Happy Valley with an hour's notice to get the team ready and wins. Then he has to figure out a way to stop Maryland. Maryland gets all the momentum. They're within a score. All they got to do is just go down and score. Rallies the troops, gets the stop, gets the ball back, go down and seal it. Then takes on Ohio State at home, has a huge fourth down decision inside their Ohio State 30. Kicks a field goal. Trust puts his defense out there on the field, says, "Go win me a ball game," and they go win him a ball game. I don't see how you can go with anyone else. He goes 4-0 in games that he was the acting head coach. Mm-hmm. I don't see how you can go with anyone else. I mean, right. What better of an audition do you want? I mean, because and looking at the coaching, the problem is that if you bring somebody in who wasn't there already, they're going to have all the baggage of anything that may or may not come out from the NCAA, any fallout that may or may not come from any investigations into what may or may not have happened. So you're looking at that. Then you got to look at the 2 guys before Harbaugh who came in with this idea of changing the culture and changing the program with Rich Rodriguez and Brady Hoke, and what a disaster those 2 were. Guys, you go 40 and what, 39 or some 40 and 43 in 6 years. Miss a bowl game for the first time in 35 years. Beat Ohio State once in that from 2007 till 2013. You beat Ohio State one time. Then you bring in Jim and everything that he's done. Whether it be the first year where they were one big play away from being 11-0 going into the Ohio State game, and finish 10-2 and win a bowl game, or the 2016, the giving up the kick to Iowa, losing in overtime to Ohio State, and then you have 2018, 2019 getting thumped by Ohio State in the last game of the year, the disaster, the debacle that was the 2020 COVID year, and then the turnaround. And now you're looking at the turnaround from the ultimate lowest of low, getting thumped at home by Wisconsin, who wasn't a great team, but was an okay Wisconsin team. Then you look at 2021, 2022, capping it all off with the best quarterback you've had in 25 years, winning a national title, going 15-0, and the program finally getting to where it had been before the Dark Ages, getting the program back to the top of the mountain, and now you're going to say, okay, we're going to bring in this new guy who hasn't been here, wasn't here for the struggles, wasn't here for the success, may have had success elsewhere, but hasn't been a part of this success, and has to implement his own system and convince the guys that have been there that his way is going to be the right way, and avoid a mutiny by the locker room where you're looking at a 3 to 5 year period of being okay, winning 9 or 10 games a year, and bombing out to Ohio State again. I don't see how you can have Sherrone Moore in the building,
right,
with his pedigree, with his record, with beating Ohio State, beating Ryan Day, out-coaching Ryan Day, outsmarting Ryan Day at the end of the day, and go and try and get somebody else and bring them in and make them the head coach, give them the keys to the castle. It just doesn't make any sense. But on the converse side, I don't want to worry about that. I got 4 months before I got to even think about that. If or when Jim leaves, whatever, we'll deal with that when that happens. If he comes back, then it's a moot point. If he leaves, then we'll deal with that. But for now, in the interim, I haven't quit smiling since 11 o'clock on Monday night. It's the most glorious championship. Because I remember, because I was there in 97, I really wasn't around for Michigan beating Washington State in the Rose Bowl. So I didn't really understand what was going on there. But I remember the Wings winning in 97, breaking the 42-year curse and ending that drought. And 98 was good, and 2002 was great, and 08 was great. But this one was even better than all 4 of those combined. And so for me, with everybody leaving and going to the draft and aging out or whatever, transferring, whatever, that's great. Good luck to them. Wish them the best. Going to pull for them in the NFL like I pull for every other one who has ever come through the gates and had an impact. But, honestly, I really don't care about, anything other than celebrating and basking in the glory of being national champions for at least a couple more months. Because August will be here before we know it. Hey, April will be here before we know it. We'll get into spring ball, and we'll turn the clocks over, and everybody will start over at 0. And, outside of Eastern Michigan, you feel like you got a shot at it. That's where mine heads.
I was going to say with Gerard Mayo taking over as head coach in New England, how about he drafts J.J. McCarthy, the last Michigan quarterback in New England, did a pretty good damn job. So, just saying.
Yeah. I think
fact that was in New England.
I think JJ. The last Michigan kid that went to New England did pretty all right for himself. 6 rings and made a couple of bucks.
So yeah.
He did all right. But like I said, I'm not worried about that. Everybody else can worry about that and fret and fuss and bitch and whine to their Twitter followers. That's great. And, I'll get into it in spring ball. If tomorrow it comes out that Jim's gone and he's headed to LA or he's headed to Oakland or wherever he may end up, good for him. And then I'll start worrying about who's going to be the next coach. But until I know for sure, I ain't worried about it. No, and for the transfer portal and who's going to be the next quarterback and what we're going to do, there'll be plenty of time to cuss and discuss that and break that all down. And I'm sure we'll get into it as the season gets closer. And we got some big games on our schedule next year, and it's going to be tough not having a guy like J.J. McCarthy. But we got some guys waiting in the wings that I'm not too worried about. We still have Donovan Edwards. We got Colin Mullings. We got this Cole Cabana kid who 2 years ago, because he was redshirted this year, but 2 years ago he was like the number 1 running back in the country, and he's been hyped to hell and back. So I'm excited to see him. The defense is returning like 90% of the starters. We're still going to be a good team. I'm not worried about it. And so, for me, and because there's a lot of seniors that we're sending off to the NFL, and so those kids that were there for the 2020 year and 29, some of them were there, since 2019, like Michael Barrett, he's going to the league now. And so, I'm like, more than anything, I was just thanking them for the 4 or 5 or 6 years that they gave us on the field and reveling in the championship. Because I know, Brad, you remember, I think what was 08 was the last Florida championship in football. And,
yes,
that
was the Tebow.
Now you're sneaking up on 20 years. And and then they say, when you're winning, when you're red hot, and you're winning everything but Miss America, you don't feel like it's ever going to go away. And so, I now here in 2020, now 2024, and knowing that we hadn't done it in 26 years, and it might be another 26 years before we get back to the top of the mountain, I want to hold on to that feeling. The joy, the giggles, the tears of joy, because and we haven't been on the show in a couple of weeks. We haven't had a chance to break down anything, but from the stop on 4th down against Alabama, that sent me, and I called because me and my best friend were Facebooking about the game, and as soon as the game got over, I called her and I just, I screamed and like just apoplectic, and then I called my mom and we talked about it for like 20 minutes and,
right.
Monday or Tuesday morning, it settled in, like, hey, we're going to go play in a national title game. And then Monday afternoon rolled around, last Monday rolls around, and it's like, okay, here we go. Oh, it's on. We're, 60 minutes of football. And, and the thought in the back of my mind was, if we lose this game, last week means nothing. I can't remember who it was that likened it to the, I can't remember if it was David Cohn or who it was. I'd like to give credit if I could remember, but somebody said, it's like the 80 team, the Miracle on Ice team, right? They got past the Russians, but if they drop that game to Norway, it's all for naught. Or whoever they played. I want to say it was Norway, but Finland. I don't remember. Finland.
They beat Finland. Yeah, Finland, yep.
Okay, yeah. So it really doesn't. If the 80 hockey team had lost to Finland in that subsequent game, beating the Russians, that would have been nice, but it would have been hollow.
Right.
Like much like losing to Georgia and losing to TCU the last 2 years. Like, it was nice beating Ohio State. Yeah, it was nice winning the Big Ten. But really, at the end of the day, I'd rather go 11-1, lose to Ohio State, and win a Natty and hold that over their head than beat Ohio State and then get trounced in the first round or blow a game we should win by 6 because we had two bad plays, and all of a sudden we're down by 14. And so, going into Monday's game, and with all of that history, with all the failures, with, whether it was Barrett was short, whether it was the 2016 games against Iowa and Ohio State, or the 2018-2019 games against Ohio State, where we just couldn't get our cleats out of the ground and get after them, all that stuff was playing in the back of my mind. It's like, okay, constantly all year waiting for that other shoe to drop, where we played down to Maryland. Maryland plays up to us. We get up a big lead against Maryland and let them come back. We get a big lead against Ohio State. We let them come back. We get out to a lead against Alabama and we can't put them away. And we have to take we have to take them to overtime. We have to have some heroics by our quarterback to take us to get us to overtime. And so going into Monday's game, I had gone back and I had watched some of the Washington film just to get ready for the game, actually to get ready for this show, but then we ended up not having a show, so that really didn't matter. But anyway, that notwithstanding, I was looking at the tape on Penix, and was like, if you can get to him with your front four and you can drop 7 into coverage, he'll throw you the ball. Because I'd gone back and I looked at his numbers, and his numbers were okay. lots of yards, but only 30 touchdowns to nine picks. And I was like, well, he'll give you the ball. And then I looked at because we had played Penix when he was at Indiana back in the COVID year, and he just torched that defense like it was nothing. And I was like, I was watching that. I was like, I don't know what it is, but it feels like Dan Brown was trying to get himself fired. Because I looked at that defense, and that defense was all out of sorts. And I was like, that defense, the 2020 defense that played against Penix, was not the same defense that was playing Monday night. And they didn't get a whole ton of sacks like they did Milroe, but they got enough pressure where he could never get comfortable. And if you look at his overthrows, because he had a couple of overthrows where it was like, it wasn't so much that he was, because he had been so good all year at making those throws, and it wasn't so much that he was missing, is that he was sped up, right? Yeah. And because the pass rush wasn't getting home, but it was making him uncomfortable. You don't have to get home against a guy like Patrick Mahomes. You make him uncomfortable, you get him off the spot, you can't get in a rhythm, and you keep everything in front of you, come up, make your tackles, and you're going to shut him down. Yeah, he might have 200, 300 yards, but he's going to give you the ball. Yeah, he'll be 27 for 51 with 1 touchdown and 2 picks. I mean, it's a recipe for success against all timing quarterbacks. You keep everything in front of you. You don't let those 5 and 6 yards become 10 and 12 and 15 yard plays where it's an extended handoff where he throws it out into the flat and then the back catches it and he can run. He's got an alley and it turns an 8-yard gain into a 30-yard gain. And that was a lot of what Penix was doing. Yeah, everybody wanted to talk about the bombs he was throwing. He can throw a dime. The kid can absolutely throw a dime. But watching his tape and watching what Washington's offense was doing was they wanted to get everybody sucked up. You draw the linebackers up. You draw the safeties up. You spread everybody out, and you force them to contain, and then you can hit a double move and go over the top. Because everybody's so worried about making tackles in open space, then you suck the defenders in. You start out in like 11 personnel. You track the line of scrimmage, get everybody sucked down into the box. And you hit those dink and dunk passes, those 5, 6, 7 yards that go for 5, 5-yard pass that goes for 12, a 6-yard pass that goes for 11, a 3-yard pass that goes for 4. It's not much different than running up the middle, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 8, 12, 15, and kind of that same mentality. And then you suck everybody down. You get them looking. And you get them reacting instead of anticipating, or you get them anticipating instead of reacting. I said that backwards. They're anticipating in something underneath, and you start out and you come back in hard, and you go. You got burners, Rome Odunze, and the other 2 kids that have over the top that have speed. They can take the top off the defense. You've got to be able to get that. You can't do that if the defense is reacting instead of anticipating. And that was what Michigan's defense was able to do all night, was able to react to what Washington's offense was trying to do. A couple of busted coverages, yeah, that happens. And it's about limiting the damage. Washington had 1 play of 30-plus yards all night. I mean, and at the end of the day, when you live by the big play, die by the big play. Washington couldn't get those big plays. And so it was just a matter of the ball constrictor, just squeezing down. It wasn't a 45 to 9 blowout, but it was 34-13, which was pretty much where I thought the game was going to be. I thought it was going to be close late. Washington, so in my mind, going into the game, I thought Washington would be within 10. I thought it'd be 21-13 at half. And Michigan's second half defense would rise to the occasion. And Michigan would go on and kick a field goal in the second half and make it 24-13. And Michigan would just play that ball constrictor role, and it would be, and yet early in the fourth quarter, Washington would make a play, get down, get a touchdown, go for 2, make it 21-24. Michigan drives right down the field, win a 5-minute 13-play drive, make it 31-21. Penix would throw a bad pick, and Michigan would capitalize on it. Your final score 38-21. So 34-13, 38-21 is pretty close. So I was pretty close on that.
Well, I think where the game, and correct me if I'm wrong. Michael Penix has a very, very weird release. The ball looks like he turns the ball over. He turns his wrist over. I've never seen a quarterback ever do that. I don't know how that's going to transfer into the pro level, because Tebow was one of those guys too that tucked the ball before he threw it, and when defenses pick up on that, they're gonna, the film will show that. But I watched the national championship, and what Michigan did is they went back. The defense obviously, but they went back to old Michigan football where they just pounded down your throat, and they ran the ball.
Yeah.
And Washington's defense was tired, and you could see the fatigue setting in the fourth quarter, and that's where Michigan just blew the game wide open, is in the fourth quarter. So, but you know what? In all reality, I as a college football fan, I can't be any happier. I'm so happy they won, with everything that was going on that did happen, should have happened, or whatever. I'm happy for them that they got off the hump there and won a national championship. I was pulling for them. I was happy when they beat Alabama in the semifinal game, because thinking back, the previous two seasons, they ran into Georgia. And you're like, oh, shit. Like, they ran into Georgia. The first year they played Georgia, Georgia ran them off the field. And then last year, it was a closer game. But they were able to go in and defeat the SEC. They took down the SEC champion. And then they went on to the final. And even if Texas had gotten there, it was their year. It just, everything just seemed to go their way, where it just seemed like it was their time. Like, if the only thing that was going to beat them was themselves, that was how it was going to be. If they were to go out and turn the ball over, 4 or 5 times, then that they shoot themselves in the foot. Well, then that they beat themselves. But I mean, being Adams from Michigan, I mean, you got to be happy about the Lions. I mean, 31 years without a playoff win, and they got one. And earlier, that was the best game of the weekend, and I tried to watch a lot of it. I really the biggest surprise for me is Houston. Where have they all of a sudden come out of? Rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, and they're in the divisional round of the playoffs now. They have a tall task to beat Baltimore, but you never know. You never know.
That's why they play the games.
Same thing with Green Bay going to San Francisco. Everybody's got the 49ers penciled in. Green Bay looked hella good. They looked good last week against Dallas. They went to Dallas, and a team that doesn't lose at home that often got their pants knocked off of them by Green Bay. Gerald's not here, but I was the most happiest camper to see Green Bay beat Dallas last week.
Green Bay handed Dallas's ass. I mean, it wasn't whether, everybody played bad. Offense, defense, special teams. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that they retained McCarthy, to be honest with you. I was talking to Gerald about that last night. But I'm like, it's hard to get rid of a guy. I mean, I get it. I get wanting to move on, because you've seen this same song and dance for 20 years, Lou? Good in the regular season, can't get over the hump in the playoffs, right? Whether it was Bill Parcells or Jason Garrett, or now with with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah,
But like I was telling
25 either.
Like I was telling Gerald last night, it's like, but who's better that you can go get that can do what Mike McCarthy can't, and that's win the big one. And I'm like, it's hard to say because if you move on from Mike McCarthy is going to get another job. I guarantee it. If the Cowboys had fired Mike McCarthy, he would have ended up somewhere, Washington or LA or Oakland or something. He'll get a job. He's not gonna, if he wants a job, there's a job out there for him. He's not going to be unemployed very long. But that notwithstanding, firing Mike McCarthy means that you're going to have to clean house, which means that the OC is probably gone. It means Dan Quinn's probably gone. And because especially if Mike McCarthy gets a new job, is he going to want to take Dan Quinn with him? And is Dan, if Mike McCarthy goes, teams are already interested in Dan Quinn. We know what he can do as a head coach. If he's in the right situation, he can win games. He can get you to the Super Bowl. And can he get over the hump? Don't know yet. I mean, he had one opportunity, kind of brushed the hell out of that, but that notwithstanding, and so with all of that being said, you're gonna have to start over, and you still have Dak under contract for 2 more years. Can't move off that contract. It's too much money. Can't cut him. He's cut proof. Even if you did cut him, you have to pay him all the money that he's owed. And then who are you gonna start next year? Cooper Rush? Nah, dog, nah. I mean, Cooper Rush is a nice backup. It's good to have him in the system, have him in the room, but he's not NFL starting material.
No.
And you look at the quarterbacks in the draft this year, and they're really not anything special. They're all project quarterbacks that are going to take a year or two, probably. Obviously, we've seen what C.J. Stroud did. You get him in the right situation, you give him some confidence. Of course, they can go out and win, but 90%, 99% of your quarterbacks that come out are Bryce Young running around for their lives, because and Dallas isn't, and Dallas would have to mortgage the farm to move up to create the draft capital to move up to a top 5 or top 3 pick. Then it's not worth it, because you're looking at people. If I'm the GM of the Bears or Carolina or whoever, whoever's 2, and Dallas calls me, well, I want Dak, I want Micah, I want CeeDee Lamb, I want one of those guys, and I want your first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
I want value. It may be CeeDee Lamb in this year's first round and next year's first round to get number 3. That might be what it takes. Obviously I'm not in the meeting rooms, I'm not in the ear of any GM, but for me, or and as Dallas is, if I'm the GM of another team, I don't really want to give Dallas the number 3 pick. Honestly, I don't want to make them better. I don't want them to have Caleb Williams or J.J. McCarthy or Drake May. No offense to the Cowboys fans present. No offense to the Cowboys present, but I'm sitting here going, I don't want to make the Cowboys better. I will live at 3. I will live at 3 to keep them from out of a generational talent quarterback like a Caleb Williams, like a Drake May, like a J.J. McCarthy, or the other guys that have been speculated that could be top 5, top 10 quarterbacks. So, I just don't think there's any wiggle room. And if you're giving me Dak Prescott, and if I'm Washington, is Dak Prescott more valuable than Sam Howell? And what can the new, because Washington, squad is gonna need a new head coach, so that's where I'm at on the Cowboys right now.
Uh-huh.
Well,
I
the Patriots have pick 3, so they're not, and I think they'll draft a quarterback. I think the biggest question, and we'll see that, guys, in a couple months, is will the Bears get rid of Justin Fields and draft a quarterback? Because they have the number 1 overall pick again. The second year in a row, they've got the number 1 overall pick. So
even though they didn't finish with the worst record.
Yeah, they
traded with Carolina.
Yeah, they got the Panthers pick.
Because I was thinking, I was trying to figure out, they didn't have the worst picks. I mean, the worst record. Because usually the rule is that whoever has the worst record would get the first pick. But I'm like, okay, something doesn't make sense here. So, but now I figured out what happened because they owed him a pick from last year. So now I get it. Unusual circumstances.
Because didn't Carolina trade it up to be the number 1 overall pick last year?
Yes.
So
yes, they did.
Didn't they like trade off first picks? Then they traded first rounders, and then they traded the first wherever the Panthers fell in 2000 this year. The Panthers got traded away 2 first-round picks to Chicago.
Yes.
Right.
They traded last year's they traded the number 1 overall in 2023, and then a future in the 2024 and Carolina's 2024 overall.
Yeah.
Or their first pick. The first round pick. That's how it works. They traded the first round. They traded the number 1 overall pick in 2023 and a first round in 2024, and that became the number 1 overall pick.
I've never seen that before. I don't think.
And I think, and that's why I'm so. Because this is how I see it. It's a crapshoot. Everybody gets so high on the draft. I mean, it's like sniffing your own farts, man. Everybody gets high on the draft, and yet, how many top 5 picks over the last 30 years have panned out? And you go back and you look at it, it's like, oh, that guy was a 3rd-round pick. I mean, look at Russell Wilson; he's a 4th-round pick. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he was 10th overall, generational talent. Because the scouts get so high on the big arm guy. The Will Levis. Oh, Will Levis is iron guy. Brock Purdy, because he doesn't play at SC. He doesn't play at a big name school. He didn't go to Texas. He didn't go to Michigan or Ohio State or Alabama.
Yeah.
And he falls to the last pick overall. And he takes his team, and it's the same kind of knock that's been on JJ McCarthy all years. Well, he can't lead a team to victory. Blah 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 blah. And it was something that because I was watching random YouTubers that have a podcast, because every sports fan now has a random podcast, present company included. But they were ragging on JJ about how he didn't have a good game. Well, he was only 10 for 18 with 140 yards. But they won't mention the fact that he turned around and had to hand the ball off 40 times. Because if he puts 2 of those on the deck and their fumbles, that's all anybody will talk about. Well, you can't make the quarterback running back exchange. I mean, like. If the quarterback just does his job, and his job is to turn around and hand the ball off 40 times to 2 of the best running backs in the country, if he had been in a different system, if he had been down and out, and if he had been in LSU in 2019, he'd be Joe Burrows. He'd be out there slinging the rock 40, 50 times, hitting 60, 67% of its percent complete. I mean, Joe Burrows, it wasn't like he was throwing the schlubs out there. And he had Justin Jefferson and the other guy who I can't remember his name now, but they had like 3 top 5 receivers. I mean, and no offense. Now I love Roman Wilson. I love Cornelius Johnson. they're good receivers in the Big Ten. They're good Big Ten receivers. Tough, smart, physical, run blockers. But they're not going to take the top off the defense. They're not going to be. They're not world beaters. They're not top 5 picks.
Mhm.
But it's also the offense they play in. A run first. When you have backs like Corum and Edwards, who are 2 of the best players in the game, it makes winning easy.
Mhm.
It's a cheat code, And when it comes to that type of when it comes to that type of thing where 10 for 18 for 140 is a bad day. I mean, if that's a bad day, I'll take bad days like that every day of the week and go win a national title.
Mhm.
Right.
So in the quarterback running back exchange, how many times have we seen a guy put it on the deck because they just were off page?
Mhm.
And that's all anybody can talk about. Well, they dropped the ball. And then to blame the quarterback, blame the running back, whoever you want to blame. And it's so funny to me that you'll say a quarterback had a bad game when he had to do quarterback things in an important part of the game. An underappreciated part of the game is the quarterback center exchange and the quarterback running back exchange. And if you're going to do that 40 times a game,
Yeah.
I mean, you change and you play in the offense that you're given. If you're given an offense that's going to run the ball 40 or 50 times and only ask you to drop back 18 times, you make the plays that you can make, and then you just turn around and hand the ball off. I mean, it's not rocket surgery.
No.
Well, I think also too. I think it comes down to most quarterbacks too. Well, when they go from college to the pros, I think it comes down to like you were talking about earlier, like system quarterbacks. There are guys out there that are put in the right system. Like Brock Purdy is a perfect example of that. When you have there's Gerald. When you have
Thank you, money.
when you have certain quarterbacks in certain situations, they relish. And I think if you're put in that situation, Tom Brady, for example, I mean, you can be successful. Where if you have like a guy like Bryce Young who has no offensive line, well,
Yeah.
for your life. And we learned that this year with in Carolina. So
No. Excuse me. Not just that, but he had no running game.
yeah, there you go too. Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Uh-oh.
Y'all are in the kitchen with me right now.
Cool beans.
Okay.
So if I pop in out, y'all know the reason why.
It's okay.
Yeah. I know.
All right. Oh, we just lose him. There he goes.
Ugh.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I mean, the 4 games that are up on the docket this weekend are, I think all 4 of them are going to be good. I mean, you're going to look and say, San Francisco should dominate Green Bay. The Ravens should dominate Houston, but that's why they play the games. We don't know that.
We don't know.
Green Bay could
We
win
can predict one.
the AFC and NFC championship game. So we don't know. We don't know. The Tampa Detroit game. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Tampa could go up there and win, or
Detroit,
they did do them earlier this year and dominate us. Amon St. Brown had almost 200 yards. Here in Tampa, that was when we wore the old creamsicle jerseys, and every time they wear those jerseys, they don't do very well. But
it's all,
I mean, the 8 teams that are left, it's going to be interesting to see which 4. Again, the experts want San Francisco and Baltimore in the Super Bowl. Well, that may or may not happen. You know what I mean? That it might happen, it may not happen. You know, who knows?
And I think it's gonna.
You know?
I think that it's not so much as they want; it's what they expect. You know, I think what they want.
I'm going to say
What?
Houston and the 49ers.
Houston, you think so?
Makes the Texans. Okay.
I think that the experts, if and this is when I say another knock against the whole it's rigged brigade, because if it was rigged, it'd be New York and Washington in the New York and New York in the Super Bowl every year.
Yes.
You know, it'd be New York, Dallas, and then it'd be the Giants and the Cowboys in the conference title every year, and it'd be the Jets and Pittsburgh, maybe. I can't think of. I don't know who would be the NFC equivalent of the Giants, but or the Cowboys. Maybe Kansas City right now. You know, you could put Kansas City in there. You can pencil Kansas City and the Jets in every year, and New York and Washington and New York and Dallas and every year, because and that to me is the obvious and glaring sign that the NFL isn't rigged. Because if the NFL was rigged, you'd have the best 4 teams. You'd have the most important 4 teams in the conference titles every year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think
you know, honestly, I think the NFL. Again, when it comes down to the NFL too, with money, like they want the big TV markets there, right? They want San Francisco to get there, California. That's a big TV market. You know, and Detroit's a big TV market. They want to get the teams in there that have the big. Houston's a big TV market. Not as big as Dallas, but it's in Texas, so it's a big TV market as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be, being that you have teams that are in the Final Four that have yet to win a Super Bowl. It would be nice to see like Detroit or Houston or both of those teams make it, because neither one of them have ever made it to that far. Number one, neither of them have ever won one. The Bucks have won 2. San Francisco has won 5. The Ravens have won 2. Let's see, Kansas City's won what? 3? 2 or 3?
3
overall. 3. Okay. So it would be. I mean, Buffalo's never won one. They were there 4 times, but they never won one.
They got worse every time.
Yeah, but they it would have to be. I'd like to see somebody who hasn't won one get there.
Some new blood.
I mean, it's not. I know. Again, the experts and hopefully it works out that way. But the experts are hoping that it is Baltimore and San Francisco, because it's a rematch. You know, when.
How about the Lions and San? Oh, we can't do the Lions. But how about the Lions getting in?
You could do the Lions and the Ravens. The Lions and the Ravens could get there.
Yeah, Lions Ravens would be really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly, I like to see Lions Texans. That's just me. I'm going to go on a
Lions Texans would be a lot of fun.
That would be a good football game to see.
Yeah, I think I think that the experts. I don't so much to say want as expect, because the expert. Yeah, there's a reason why they're experts, and no knock on the experts, because they've been around it, they've done it forever, they know what they're talking about, at least they want you to believe that. But looking at the best, San Francisco and Baltimore have separated themselves from the pack. And so you would think that San Francisco and Baltimore should be there. But like I said, that's why you play. Any given Sunday, that's why you play the games. Green Bay had no business going down to Dallas and beating the pants off the Cowboys, but they did. And so you look at the matchups this week. You got Detroit and Tampa, which should be the best game of the weekend. It's the most compelling matchup to me. Maybe I could see an argument for Chiefs Bills, but in terms of fun, I think Detroit and Baltimore or Detroit and Tampa Bay are going to be loads of fun. Dan Campbell and his go for broke, let it all high, wide, and handsome. Let the rough edge drag. Saturday night street fight mentality that he's brought to the team. And I've been a critic of Dan Campbell since day one. I have, and even doing this playoff run, I still think he's too bold, too brash, too aggressive. No, and I think that it costs them games at times. But you can't argue with results, and I won't argue with results. I'm very happy with the result. I've never been more happy to be wrong, because what he's done in Detroit and the culture that the change of culture has really been outstanding. Perennial losers, everybody, a feel good story. When they win 6 games, it's cute, but it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I don't know if this is the window. If it's a one and done kind of deal. If they go out and they lay an egg against Tampa Bay and they get bodied, and they can't get out of their own way and they lose 20-6 or 27-13, and aren't really and make no effort, show no effort. If it implodes on him and they're right back to 33-14 and right back in the basement, or if it's sustainable, if they can grow and learn from a bad loss to the Bucs. No, that's something only time will tell. I have Detroit in the championship game. I got them against San Francisco. As much as I love them, a championship game in Detroit, an NFC championship game in Detroit would be wild. It would be the hardest ticket to get in the NFL because they will.
Especially, but if it's against Green Bay.
If it's against Green Bay, there won't be any green and gray or green and yellow in the crowd because they'll sell.
Yeah,
they'll sell 70 tickets and they'll be turning people away at the game. They'll have to open it up. They'll have to do a quick change, get that stadium converted over to be the big stadium that they can do, and like they did for the Super Bowl 20 years ago now, 15. But that'll be the hottest ticket in the NFL. It'll be every bit of 72,000 people in there. It'll be a fire hazard, and they'll probably have 100,000 people outside the stadium. There'll be 70,000 inside, and 100,000 of your closest friends, 110,000 of your closest friends in and around the stadium. Give or take. You know what it'll be? It'll be good for the economy of downtown Detroit is what it will be. If the NHL wants to make a couple of bucks, they move the Wings game to that Sunday afternoon or Sunday. Yeah, because that should be like they start a Wings game at 3:00. Yeah, they'll sell out.
Well, I mean, and you think that the stadiums are so close to each other. You go to a Wings game, and then you go, oh, I got a ticket to the Lions game. I'll just walk over.
Exactly. That's what.
That would be awesome.
They the double dip on that one will be outstanding. I mean, even if they don't have a Wings game, if they open if the Little Caesars people want to make a couple of bucks, be in some good decent money there, is open up the JLA. For the LCA, sorry, open up the LCA and sell tickets $5 a head. They'll pack that sumbitch out too.
Yeah, to watch.
Even if they have to go out to San Francisco, you open up Ford Field, you open up the Little Caesars, you'll have 90,000 people downtown, no problem. They'll sell out both. It'll be bonkers. Even if they have to go to San Francisco, if they don't get a home playoff game, if they open up both venues for watch parties, you better double up on your beer.
If Green Bay wins, they go to either Tampa or Detroit. So whoever wins the Tampa, if somehow Green Bay upsets San Francisco, which the picks that I made, I have Tampa and Green Bay. And then in the AFC, I have Kansas City and Houston, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway.
That's pretty good.
I went last week. I said, you know what? I'm going to take Houston over Cleveland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a far shot. And CJ Stroud showed why he probably should have been in Carolina, but glad he wasn't because of the offensive issues in Carolina, where he's in Houston, where they have a better offensive line. So it's better for him to grow and that. And then, I picked Detroit. I think there was a lot of people that picked the Rams because the Lions hadn't won a playoff game, since 91. So it was one of those like, well, you know what? You got to pick the underdog sometimes. And that's why I took Houston, I took Green Bay, and I took Detroit. What the hell? I mean, I won all 6 games last week. Not that I'm bragging or anything, but I won all six last week. Now, I can go 0 for this week. I could go 0 for 4. That's the way it goes. It could, Detroit can win. San Francisco can win. Baltimore and Buffalo can win. And I'm 0 for 4. But I mean, I think the last 8 games, the last 8 teams, I think whoever wins, whoever gets to the conference championships and then it gets to the Super Bowl, it's going to be entertaining. I don't think we're going to have, yes, Baltimore and San Francisco are above everybody with how they're playing. Right. But if they somehow both get beat, the Super Bowl is going to be very well. Let's say that both of them get there. They've already played each other earlier in the year. Baltimore took it right to San Francisco. So I don't think that'll happen a second time around. But
no.
We'll have to wait and see what happens, So
I think all 4 games this weekend. I think all 4 games this weekend have the potential to be really, really good.
Mm-hmm. They should. Because for the most part, like I said, last week was just, there was really nothing wild about this wild card. It was all just mostly one-sided games, except for of course the Rams and Detroit. Other than that, it was like, you're supposed to step it up a notch in the playoffs, and you just like, it was like painful to watch.
And I think in the blowouts, in the 3 big blowouts, well, I guess 4.
I have to go to a rant. If you'll excuse me. All right. Now, we all know that last week was a first for the league, although it's nothing to be proud of, as one game went streaming and was not shown on regular television, which I think is pretty stupid. Look, you wanted to, like I said, you want to do this in the regular season, okay, fine, because nobody cares about, Thursday night games anyway. Or maybe it was on a Tuesday night, but in a playoff game, you got some nerve not showing on national TV. This is what people want to see. And you had the audacity, the stupidity, and whatever else I can think of, to show the game on streaming when half the country doesn't even be able to afford it, and you do it anyway. Is there something wrong with this picture? Or just me? This is like a total screw up.
It's called the magic money.
Well, it's going to lose a lot of people. You care about your viewers?
Well,
Peacock paid NFL $110 million to have games. So
Well, and if it didn't work, and it didn't get Peacock the money that they were expecting, if it didn't get a whole bunch of new subscribers to Peacock, then it won't be back on Peacock next year. And they'll just go back to having games on regular over-the-air television. But if it worked, it will.
How does it work?
It will continue to grow. I mean, and I think the thing about it is that I think it would have been better served to be on Prime because the games were already on Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing is that not everybody can afford streaming.
They don't care. If you don't want to watch, don't watch. You don't want to pay for it, you don't get to watch it. That's
the only scary thing is if it does work, then you know what's going to end up happening.
Yes.
Super Bowl is going to be on streaming service. You know that's going to happen
5 years
on the road sooner or later, and that's what's scary.
Yeah, more and more.
In 5 to 10 years, I don't think you're going to see a lot of sports on regular TV. They're all going to go streaming. So all you're going to be left with is crappy news magazine programs, reality turd stuff. Sorry, you know what I mean. And infomercials. That's what you're going to see.
Well, I think that
you're taking a step back.
over-the-air television is a dying medium. Over-the-air television is a dying medium. Everybody's going streaming anyway, and I think that more people have invested in streaming and are more willing to invest in streaming at $5 a month or $10 a month than they are at $160 a month for 80 channels and nothing to watch.
Right.
If you look at the big four, you got ESPN, you got Disney Plus, Hulu, and Netflix. Those three, right? Those are the big three. And let's go for. I'm sorry, I forgot Amazon. So the big four: Amazon, Disney Plus, Hulu, and Netflix, right? But Peacock's not a big four though. Peacock's not part of the big four yet. You got so those are the big four, right? And even if all three, if they average about $20 a month for 4 streaming services, where you get all the shows, you get back catalogs of all the things you've ever. Disney has back catalogs of all their stuff. Hulu has back catalogs of certain things, and Prime has back catalogs of certain things, and Netflix has all their original shows.
Yeah. The thing is, though, you need a smart TV for the streaming service to work.
And the problem is that Peacock put together a last-minute crew because NBC had 3 games this weekend, and NBC usually doesn't have 3 games. They usually have 1 game a week. And so when you have the third-tier crew that doesn't do football very often, they botched the hell out of it, and that was a big knock on the game on Sunday or Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. And to me it was like I didn't care. I was working and whatever, so it didn't bother me that I didn't get to watch it. It didn't break my heart. It was just another football game. I mean, I can still go. By midnight on Saturday night, I can see all the important plays. I can see all the big plays. I know it's going to be rerun on ESPN. And if you think about the 4 or 5, if you're at 5 streaming services, Peacock and Amazon and Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu, then at $20 a piece, right? You got 5. That's $100 a month. And comparing that to cable or even terrestrial TV without just over the air broadcast, ESPN or NBC, CBS, Fox, and ABC.
PBS.
Even if all you have is an antenna and all you get is over the air, you get the over the air channels.
Yeah, that's it.
It's still if you have the 4 or 5 major streaming services, you're still $60, $70 a month cheaper than cable, and you can watch whatever you want, whenever you want, on, and so, and you have movies, you have shows, if you want to watch your Disney shows, you have Disney Plus. You want to watch, Netflix originals, you have Netflix. You want to watch, Amazon shows, you have Amazon. You want to watch, CBS, you have the Paramount Plus network, whatever.
Yep.
And I don't see this as the next evolution of TV and I think streaming has replaced cable in a lot of homes because it's better than cable. It may be in the totality, it may be the same amount of money. It may be the same amount of money as cable, but you can tailor your streaming experience to get what you want without ads, without interruptions. You can have bigger and better TV shows with higher budgets and better production, and then if you have the Disney bundle, you can have ESPN, and you're really not losing out on anything you want to watch because everything else is just over-the-air broadcasting. So if you want to watch if the only game you miss in one weekend is one mildly interesting playoff game that really wasn't like it was 42-41 and it came down to a last-second field goal. It was a pretty standard blase NFL game, low-scoring blowout where Kansas City put the Clamps to Miami, and it was not really competitive for 4 quarters. So I don't think that most NFL fans are really going to be. I wasn't up in arms over it because it was like at the end of the day, it wasn't like I missed out on a great game, and I was like, oh no, I didn't watch. I didn't get to see the best game of the weekend. So that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, but it's a playoff game for crying out loud. I mean, that's different. Regular season, if you miss a game, okay, you miss a game regular season. But the playoffs, that's what people want to watch. That's what people want to tune in for mostly.
But I think that's the experiment, though, isn't it? Though, to see what games people really want to see.
Well,
I think
there's going to be more streaming games coming on in the near future. So, like I said,
that's
all networks are going to dump sports.
Probably. I mean, sports. I think the problem there is sports content. The 24-hour news cycle, or 24-hour sports cycle, has killed the enjoyment of sports. Because I think 15 years ago, when you only had ESPN, when ESPN was the only game in town, or 25 years ago, when ESPN was the only game in town, you could have 24 hours of sports and fill 24 hours of sports with sports coverage. And now, with CBS and Fox and NBC all having dedicated sports networks and fighting for those prime sports dollars, I think getting away from the traditional broadcasting is going to benefit everyone involved in the long run. Yeah. Because I think that you're seeing a shift in just generally how people consume media. People watch more stuff on their phones, on their tablets, on their laptops than ever before. Having a 55, 60, 70-inch plasma screen TV and an Xbox and an internet connection, I can stream any game or any show or any movie.
Yeah, but you need the right
over my TV.
Because my set is not a smart TV. In fact, it's pretty dumb. So, because if I do a streaming channel, it freezes in 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I also think that viewers are getting younger and hipper and more technologically savvy, and I think the NFL is trying to corner the young market, though. the kids that like, streaming and yeah.
I wonder what that could be.
Streaming is a lot cheaper than regular cable.
That's true.
And it's also, and I think there's a lot of benefits.
It used to be like in the old days, if you want to get the reception wasn't working, you had to put your finger up the socket and then it works better and you get the better reception like that. Now it's a lot harder.
I think that a lot of people, you just call your nephew who knows what he's doing. He comes over, he takes two seconds and makes a couple of adjustments, and you call over your 12-year-old nephew, and he goes, "Okay, just change this setting and that setting, and there you go, Uncle. You're ready to go." And I think that a lot of older fans, because of the way that you can't have an older fan base, and the NFL has the oldest fan base in sports, so they've got to get younger. They've got to attract younger viewers. People in their teens and 20s who are going to become the next generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the next generation of football fans. They've got to attract those fans and keep those fans interested. And no offense to the older fans and people in their 40s and 50s, but you guys are aging out. You're people in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They're not going to be around forever, for 20 or 30 more years.
No kidding.
And so if you want to grow the brand, if you want to continue to have viewers year in and year out, you've got to start thinking younger. You got to think, what do the kids like? They like streaming. We'll put a game on.
I got on my tombstone. He never got streaming. Okay, that's what you're on my tombstone.
No, you need.
He never.
It's pretty cool, brother. You need to try streaming.
Oh yeah, streaming's great. I mean, and I think. No, you're good. No, it's great. I love the debate. I love the conversation. It makes you raise some interesting points. I appreciate not the only one going on wild rants. But looking at
60 minutes.
Somebody get the duct tape for Adam, please.
But I looking at the landscape of sports television and sports entertainment, I think that a lot of it is moving to, because I don't watch ESPN during the week anymore. I used to watch it all the time, but I prefer to watch people in their basement just ranting into a camera for 20 minutes, because I feel like they're more interesting, they're more entertaining, they're because I think the big problem with the talking heads and as Bradley likes to say, the experts, is that they're beholden to the corporate overlords. McDonald's doesn't want you to say something controversial. McDonald's, Nike and McDonald's and as much fun as the Pat McAfee show is, and it's a lot of fun. They still have, they're still beholden to their corporate overlords. And I think two guys in the basement just talking sports is far more interesting in the totality of it, especially if they're at least halfway competent. Of course you got your hot take and bullshit artists that are out there just saying stuff to be controversial because they know people will click on it and will get angry and engagement is engagement, as I've always said. You can leave me all the death threats you want. Engagement is engagement. And so, you pull up on the pad and let's have it out. Click. You know what I'm saying? I keep that strap on me. I stay ready. So if you really want to have a go, we can have a go. I think that getting younger and getting hipper and getting more in with what the youth are, and the young, not just the youth, but the young people of the country are into, which is just streaming. And not to say that, older people can't get into streaming or and understand it, but I think the traditional media of the traditional big four, Fox, ESPN, CBS, NBC, ABC, I think they're being pushed out in favor of streaming because I think that is the future. And I think that's why ESPN, or that's why the NFL, not ESPN, but the NFL wanted to experiment with a playoff game on streaming. Because if it did numbers, if it did good numbers, then it's another revenue stream.
I heard that.
Adam for this is YouTube TV. YouTube TV is the best.
Yeah, and
Can I have a little down there? No. I mean, hooked on you. I'm not that I mean, Adam's the youngest one here.
Ugh. I think so.
Don't hear all that banging.
Pretty sure.
Anybody knows what that means. It should be you.
Basketball is all you care about.
But and I think that the barrier to entry into sports broadcasting is so much lower, and just maybe not sports broadcasting. It's a bad term. It's not really the right term, but for want of a better term, sports broadcast or sports commentary. That's what is important. And sports commentary is so much lower than it's ever been. Like I know we've talked about this before, but sitting around our bedrooms with tape recorders, pretending to be sports announcers, whether it was talking, being one of those talking. Yeah, we all did that, sitting around our rooms with tape recorders. Whether it be muting the TV and calling the game.
I used to do it in the shower, so there you go.
Yeah, whether it be on a Sunday afternoon with the TV on mute, record, calling the plays, or it was Monday afternoon after the game, after all the game, and you're done with school, and you're sitting around your bedroom, dissecting the plays, and now I think with the way the internet is, and with the ability to, my setup, I got 2 lights, which were like $40. I got this tripod that was like, I don't know, $15. And I got earbuds that I use because and I just bought the only things that I specifically spent money on for this setup was my tripod and my 2 lights. I have my phone, which I bought because I needed a phone, and I bought the earbuds because I really like this brand of earbuds, and so that's what I run. And I think that the ability to just turn the camera on, and talk for however long you want to talk, until you run out of steam, or like with the shows that we do, having guests on to be able to help, bounce ideas off, or just, keep the flow going. I found for me that the biggest problem I have is transitioning. Like when I was trying to do a solo show, is to keep from umming and ahhing for 10 minutes while I tried to figure out where I wanted to go next. So having other people, when you can just call your buddy, Brad lives in Florida, I live in Tennessee, Lou's up in New York or New Jersey, I'm sorry, and Gerald's down in Texas. The fact that we can just call each other and put out a show, and even if we get no views, it's whatever. It's not really the only difference between us not getting any views and just sitting around talking football is putting it on the YouTube or on Facebook or wherever you might want to stream it. So I think that's the difference between 25 years ago when if you wanted to be a sports broadcaster, whether you wanted to call games or you just wanted to sit around and talk sports, you had to go to school. You had to get in on the ground floor at your local radio station or your local TV station, and you had to bust your ass for 10 or 15 years to be able to make it up, to even get a look from ESPN.
Right.
ESPN nowadays, you spend $40 on some lights and $20 on a tripod, and you can fire up StreamYards for free, throw your stuff up on YouTube, and you're not beholden to corporate overlords. You can say whatever you want. You can be as foul-mouthed. You're only beholden. The only thing is that you're only beholden to what your co-host.
Yeah. Yeah, because I tried out for
Go ahead,
broadcasting
Luke.
school over 30 years ago, and they said nope, you'll never make it. Your speech is terrible. You're fumbling over your words. You're this, you're that, and I said like forget it. So, but look at me
Well, they
now.
were wrong. They were wrong, Lou.
They said
Well,
the same thing.
They were wrong. They were wrong.
You guys remember when we had Alex's guy on, and I wanted to ask him more about what happened, how I could get in. And I mean, and look at me, like I called high school football games.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that I'd be doing that. You know,
I never thought I'd be doing a sports show.
Well, according to him, I'm too old. Didn't he flat out say that? Oh, you're pushing. If you go back and you can't go back and watch that show. I deleted it. But I mean, if you go back and listen to that show or have a way of listening to it, but I deleted it on all my social media, so unless it got shared somewhere else. Yeah, but yeah, he's like, well, you're 30, you're a little old. I'm like, okay, all right, well, I'm going to stop asking questions because, he's been with the corporate ESPN, so of course he's going to say something like that, or he doesn't want the youth to come up and take his spot.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, that whole conversation was pretty disappointing. In all honesty, now we've had some time to digest that. But I think the problem, with trying to talk to that guy in particular is the fact that, when you're in the corporate sports world and you've been doing it for 25 years or 30 or whatever, how many ever years you have been doing it, and the fact that when he got into broadcasting, he was fresh out of school. He went and did some local TV stuff, and that's like I was saying. It's 25 years ago or 30 years ago when he was getting into it. The barrier to entry was the barrier to entry. Now if you can talk halfway decently and you can be halfway decently entertaining. Mm-hmm. I look at all the guys like Urinating Tree, 5 Points, Steve Dangle. He's hilarious. You don't watch Steve Dangle. If you're a hockey fan and you don't watch Steve Dangle, what are you doing with your life? He's great.
He's especially if the Leafs lose. If you want to watch with Toronto's hockey team, just tune in. It only takes him about 5 minutes to have a meltdown, and it's hilarious.
It's great. It's great. Those guys have worked their way up and from being, having 100 subscribers to having over 100,000 subscribers, and they get to go and they collab with other people and they do a lot of other work. They'll make spot appearances. Dangle, he'll get on Hockey Night in Canada, and it's great and it's hilarious. And then I think that with an old guy who doesn't have the perspective of a younger, who doesn't have an understanding of how the culture and the landscape of sports broadcasting has changed, where he came up, you had to be young. And now, Bradley, he's like 38, Bradley here, he's 29 and a half. 29 and a half, right?
I'm in the 40s club. I'm not that. So no, I'm not afraid to say that.
Pushing 30 for the 10th time.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you have that old school, that old guard mentality, like that gentleman had, where you had to be young, and to get because by the time you're 30, if you're not in the truck at ESPN, you're not getting on TV. Now, I can rattle off a dozen YouTubers, or at least a half a dozen YouTubers who I watch on a regular or semi-regular basis, who are far more entertaining than ESPN ever could hope to be.
Mhm.
And it's I don't know if you watch Jaguar Gator 9. He's really good. He's entertaining. I can't remember. There's another one. He's a big Cincinnati Bengals fan that I really like his stuff. I watch it all the time.
If you like hockey, the hockey guy, Shannon, he's very informational
Yeah,
about
he's good.
everything going on with hockey. And he has, I think the guy has literally, I don't know, 500 hockey jerseys. I mean, he's got
Something like that. It's insane.
every freaking hockey jersey ever made. The man's got it for every team. Every show he's wearing a different jersey.
Miners?
Go. The channel's called The Hockey Guy. Go watch his show. In the background, you can see all his hockey jerseys. It's
insane.
Jerseys he has. Yeah,
He's got a closet full of hockey jerseys. It's insane. I love it.
Fan. He's a Canucks fan and a Bruins fan. He's from Canada, and he'll tell you that the funny thing about him is, if Boston and Vancouver are doing bad, he's not going to give you the, it's this and this. He will say, yeah, you know what? They suck. They got to do this. They got to do that. He's not one of those that will.
Yeah,
and that's what I like about U-Tree. I like about Steve Dangle is they'll write on their own teams. Like they will come out and tell you, hey, the Steelers fucking suck. The Maple Leafs can't win a game. They'll come out and say that. They're not afraid to say that stuff. So that's what makes them different.
Yeah.
Then, like Adam was saying, that you're not stuck behind the corporate, you can't say this. Because if you say this, we lose a sponsor. Or you say that, the sponsor may go, well, we can't have that, or
we're not re-upping next year.
Right. Yeah. You have it to the end of the year.
And I think, I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing that makes podcasting so much fun, is that you can have once you get to a certain level of podcasting, you can build a fan base that will support you through thick and thin.
Yes.
If you have 5,000 Patreons at $10 a month, even at $1 a month, if you get 5 or 10,000 Patreons at $1 a month, even, you can make a very comfortable living doing this. Yep. And so I think that's the and a lot of the guys that blow up aren't they're not corporate shills. I think that's what makes them so entertaining and accessible. It's the fact that they're just sports fans like us. And I think in the world of corporate media and the ESPNs and like the and the thing that I love about our show and about the conversations that we have is that we can agree on stuff, and I think that's the big difference between that yes, of course we disagree on certain things and we'll have differences of opinions and we'll talk through it, but a lot of times when you're watching ESPN and the chat shows, and you'll have like your Stephen A, especially like that particular brand of chat show, the Stephen A, whether it was whether it was the show he did with Shannon or the show he did with Stephen A before that all fell apart.
Skip Bayless.
Is that you'd have Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, when
Loser.
when you have that show, when you have those shows, you come.
You talking about First Take?
That's the one. Thank you.
Oh, we are First Take.
And when you have that type of show, you have Shannon will take one position and then Skip has to take the opposite. Regardless of Shannon could come out and say the sky is blue, and Skip Bayless just go, no, it's aquamarine because of whatever, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And so for me that was a big turnoff of the Monday morning chat shows.
Yes.
Was that if if you have if you have a Skip Bayless and a Shannon Sharp, you know they have diametrically opposed. Their personalities clash, and I think and after about 2 or 3 episodes, it's the same old for me.
Yes.
You know, and I think the big thing is that there's only so many ways you can dissect a football game. There's only so many things that you can say about an NBA game, and with ESPN's big focus being the NFL and NBA, the other sports get lost in the wash. And so if you want hockey content or baseball content, we lost Brad.
Oh dear.
If you want that kind of content, you have to go elsewhere. You're not getting it on ESPN. You're not getting it on Fox. So if you want baseball content, or you want NFL or NHL content, or if you're into like ladies gymnastics or ladies volleyball, you know, if you're a big lady volleyball fan or softball fan, if you want that kind of content, you know, you got to go to the internet, because outside of the baseball tournament, you know, like there's the first 2 weeks of the MLB season, they'll talk about MLB. Then they'll talk about the MLB around the All-Star break, and then in the playoffs. And then the rest of the year, they're talking about football or basketball, whether it be college football or college basketball or the NFL or NBA. Like, those are the 2 biggest sports in the country right now. So if you want NASCAR content, if you want NHL content, if you want MLB content, the best places to find that in an entertaining and informative way is on the internet. And you know, and again, like I said, without being beholden to your corporate overlords, you know, you can say whatever you want about whatever player or team. You know, and if you're entertaining and engaging and interesting and people want to watch your stuff, you can set up a Patreon, you can set up a Buy Me Coffee or a PayPal link, and if people it's just if you can build a large enough fan base and people are interested in your stuff, then you can really grow and flourish in the market now. But like I said, the barrier to entry is so much lower. If you can be at least halfway decently interesting, and somebody can, you know, and you get found by, you know, a group of people who really like your content, you can go from being a middling nobody to people knowing who you are. You can have fame. You can make money. And, you know, I think there's a certain watering down of the podcast market because it's so easy to get into podcasting. But,
yes,
you know, I think that's really what separates the average from good and good from great, is the fact that you really have to be on your game when you do this kind of stuff. So,
breaking news, guys. The Ohio State Buckeyes have hired Bill O'Brien as their offensive coordinator.
Okay.
really,
Yep, I just saw that on Score.com.
That's all I got to say is that. Wop, wop, wop.
it was,
So yes,
you know,
Oh, never mind. I see it.
the term offensive genius gets thrown around quite liberally, and I
Can I make
I think he'll do fine.
go ahead, Joe.
An announcement.
Yeah. Next Tuesday, which is the 23rd, I do believe, the Wisconsin Report is going to have a super show. So it's going to be the same time, 5 to 7 Central Standard, 6 to 8 where Lou is. So Lou and Adam, I hope y'all can make it.
I will certainly try. I'll look at my schedule.
Can you make it, Lou? Because it's going to be a super show.
Sounds like fun.
And I'm planning on taking it to, you know, maybe 2.5, 3 hours. You know, we just start to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
I can definitely make it.
I will see. I will see if I'm available. If I'm available, I'll be there. Ugh.
And
But and so as things progress over the next 5 to 10 years, I think I'm going to echo what Lou was saying a little bit earlier. Yeah, I think you'll see a lot more games, not just playoff games and not just football games, but all games. I think the leagues will start moving more towards streaming, and probably this next NFL deal may be the last TV deal for the NFL. When the rights run out and they may just, the NFL network may become its own. You may just have NFL Plus, and they'll move Red Zone and Ticket off of YouTube, and you'll just pay for NFL Plus. Like maybe $100 a month, maybe $25 a month, $30 a month, and you'll have access to all of the NFL games. The NFL games will be exclusively on the NFL app, and so if you're in it, and they'll look at doing away with blackout restrictions, and you won't have to. You'll have more games. They may look at expanding the schedule, and you'll have games on Monday, games on Tuesday, games on Wednesday. You'll have midweek NFL games on a random Tuesday night. You'll have Rams Chiefs on a random Tuesday night because they're expanding the. I could see it happening, expanding the NFL, and I think that I don't know where the college game goes, but I could see them moving away from your traditional TV partners and going more streaming, having more games on Peacock and having more games on like the Big Ten app, and they'll shutter the TV studios and everything will just be.
Adam, got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm still thinking about this. How many games do you see that going to be on the SEC network?
I think you have all your middling games like they usually do. I don't see it any. I could see in 5 or 10 years when the current media contracts run out, every league adopting a independent broadcasting system where if you want to watch Big Ten games, you have to have Big Ten Plus. If you want to watch SEC games, you're going to have SEC Plus. And instead of having to pay for, or having ABC pay for the rights to broadcast, whatever league they might have, instead of getting 8 or 12 games a week, they get 3 or 4. And the broadcast model shifts, and you have the SEC network playing most of your games. If you want to watch the Iron Bowl, you got to have SEC network. If you want to watch Georgia, Tennessee, have the SEC network, because everything's on your streaming services. And that'll be an interesting day to see if that is a sustainable business model. Because if you're looking at having to have Big Ten Plus, SEC Plus, ACC Plus, and Big 12 Plus at $25 a pop, plus NFL, NHL, MLB, and NBA, and in the NASCAR app, all at $25 plus. That could be pushing people out of the market. But I could very easily see the NFL just going with being having their own streaming service where you subscribe to get NFL content, you have to subscribe to the NFL Plus. And, where all the games are available for a monthly fee. Maybe from April to August, you only pay $15 a month, but then for the premium months where NFL football is, or from March to August, you pay $15 a month, and then in August when preseason starts, it bumps up to $30 or $40 a month from August till February. So I don't know. I'm no Nostradamus. My crystal ball's still in the shop, but
Imagine you get fixed.
just until it gets fixed in court, of course. But I very easily see that becoming a standard thing, because I think the traditional media that we've come so accustomed to, of ESPN, Fox, CBS, NBC,
Is going to be the Dodo Birds.
It's all about return on investment. So if Nike and Coke and whatever, pick your favorite corporate sponsor, Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, isn't getting a return on their investment, they're going to de-invest. They're going to move their money to other ventures that will make them more money. If those big corporate sponsors move out of broadcasting and want to, because I think with one of the benefits of streaming is that you could get rid of the ads. You can cut down ads a ton, and just, instead of having long commercial breaks where you have 5 or 6 commercials, you can just put it in a ticker. This drive is sponsored by Coke, and then just scroll the Coke banner for a drive, and then the next drive can be sponsored by Pepsi or Chevrolet, GM. And this drive is sponsored by Ford, and this drive is and then you just scroll the Ford logo, or you put the Ford logo instead of having adding the Ford logo to the broadcast, where you have the down, and you have which is something that is really funny to me that hasn't been sponsored. It's the line of scrimmage sponsored by Ford, or the first down sponsored by Yellowwood or whatever. I'm surprised that hasn't become a thing.
It's like a trade show. If you look at the bottom of it as it goes by, it says the Walker Report, sponsored by Creative Zen Spaces and Sunwear. No, that's what the NFL should do.
No, I see it coming.
And
I see it.
That would be better, because that would keep the fans more engaged in the game.
Sure.
And of course you can have some commercials, but you can shorten those commercial blocks to being down to a minute or a minute and a half, as opposed to the 2.5 minutes you have now. And I think that would, I agree, it would keep fans engaged over the course of a.
They do the same thing, when they get ready to cut to a commercial, they said this segment is being sponsored by Gecko or whatever.
It's Geico, not Gecko.
Well, I'll call it Gecko.
That's why. That's my insurance company. I just paid them $150 this morning.
Yes.
That hurt.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
But I see that coming, and I do agree with Adam. Don't be surprised if it happens in the 2025 into the 2026 season.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, where instead of having long commercial blocks, you just have it drive sponsored by, this Kansas City Chiefs drive is sponsored by Geico, and then the Dolphins drive being sponsored by Ford. So they just end.
If you look at high school football, they do the same thing. They say this drive is being sponsored by your local Chevy dealers.
Yes.
Right. And I see that coming. I see that coming in the near future, where the business model is shifting, because you look at a 30-second Super Bowl spot is like $3 to $7 million, depending on who you are and how.
Better add more to that.
And those numbers aren't coming down. And I have to wonder, like the 1984 spot for Apple, they spent $1 million. I think that was what it was, is $1 million, and that was outrageous. 40 years ago they spent $1 million on one 30-second ad.
The cheapest Super Bowl ad is about $7 million.
That's what I thought I heard. I couldn't remember if that was the number or not. Between 3 and 7 million for a 30-second ad on the Super Bowl. That's out. It's good money if you can get it, man.
I think us four are in the wrong business. We need to come up with some way of getting commercials on during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, man. We need to be in the NFL in the NFL business. That's for sure.
Exactly.
We need to be in the NFL ad block, you know. But
One game, one
yeah, I think that I just don't know, you know. I look at the.
No, but I can Adam.
Look, I know.
Changes to NFL is coming.
Yes.
100%, because I look at the NFL and the money that's there right now.
They're losing money.
Oh God, no! They make money they make money day as long as the day is long. That's why, you know, if you ever want to know why a commissioner gets re-signed, re-upped, it's because he isn't losing the league money. And you know,
I have a future sports commissioner now, but I'm not going to say it live on air.
I win.
And I think that as long as the league makes money hand over fist, they will continue to ride the commissioner. As long as he wants to be commissioner, he will be the commissioner because they make money hand over fist with him in charge.
I say
Love him or hate him, he makes the NFL a shitload of money. We're not just doing it for the money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
I don't.
And
this way, I don't hate him. I don't like him.
And as the years have gone on, and he's been the commish, the NFL has expanded. They're on Prime now. They got Thursday. He made Thursday Night Football a staple. He's made the Super Bowl even bigger than it already was. Hundreds of millions of viewers every year. That's they get 100 million on terrestrial. Not to that in their homes. That's not including sports bars and restaurants and streaming and everything else that the NFL has their fingers in. They get 100 million people to sit around a TV like it's 1989 and watch the Super Bowl. I mean, when a Super Bowl commercial gets the NFL $7 million off the rip, that's just one spot. And you got Coke, and you got Coke and Geico and Allstate and AT&T all buying 10 or 15 spots. You know, you're generating hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue for one game. You know, that's not going to move the owners and the TV people aren't going to want to move off him because he makes so much. He makes them so much money, more money than God. No, and a $1 billion empire, he turned it into a $10 billion empire. I mean, it's insane the kind of money that the NFL they print money. They just print money. And as long as they're printing money, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. And I think that the NFL, I think the other thing that the NFL is doing is trying to be innovative. Hence why you have a playoff game on a streaming service. To test the waters and see what it's like. They put what could have been a good matchup. What was an interesting game on the streaming service. They didn't pigeonhole the Chiefs and the Browns and the Browns and Texans on the streaming service. They put Kansas City and Miami, two good markets, two bigger markets for the NFL, with Miami always being huge in Miami. Dolphins are huge in Miami, and I've always been huge in Miami. And with the Chiefs coming on, and Mahomes and Kelsey and people wanting to watch that game, I think that's why they put that game specifically on streaming, even though it wasn't a great game. I think that picking that game was probably of the 6 games or 7 games that they had available to pick from, that was probably the best one to put on streaming. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a dog shit game, but that notwithstanding.
And black pepper. Oof.
And black pepper, of course.
Now I make some hamburgers, and that's what I season my burgers with is black pepper.
Now you're sneezing.
Okay.
But
And with that, guys, we'll go ahead and end this show. Lou, do you want to talk about your show this weekend?
Sure, it's called With Black Pepper. The NAF Sports Show, Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll, of course, go over the NFL divisional matchups. We'll also recap the wild card playoffs. Most of them weren't very wild at all. The third round of the NBA voting for the All-Star game, because that just came out just a little while ago. We'll also have update on the NHL All-Star game because of a few of the coaches that have been selected. Some may surprise you. What makes you think? College basketball, both men's and women's. Of course, our WWE and UFC wrestling. And, of course, the regular features, the ridiculous story of the week, sports trivia, this week in sports history, and the good news story of the week. And, of course, your thoughts and comments are always welcome. And we always welcome new callers on the show as well. So if you got time between 4 and 6 Saturday, or 3 to 5, where most of you guys are, and midnight in Australia for the Australian Open. Well, we have that too. 512-543-4662 is the number to call. Don't forget, check the show out on YouTube if you can. Just go to YouTube and type in the Enhanced Sports Show. Feel free to leave a comment if you wish. And if you wish to subscribe, it's $4.95 per month.
And one thing, do not forget this Tuesday is the Wisconsin Reports Super Show. So if you can make it, I would appreciate it because we're going to blow the roof off of it.
You got to tear the roof off this sucker? Okay.
James and myself, we're working on some great topics.
Well, with that, I'm going to go off here, guys. I want to thank everyone that tuned in. Thanks to these 3 great men for joining me every week. We'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank the sponsors, thank the networks that we're on. Everyone, please have a good night. Love all you guys. Until next week, I am the Sportster Bradley Walker. This has been the Walker Report. Peace.
Good night, folks.
Cut, print, send it.